All right. Hi. How are you? That's a fun video. That's Corbin telling me to get to work. Lori's not feeling great today, so Corbin is up in Lori's office, keeping an eye on her. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's stream. I'm excited with how things are working out right now because I got a new setup for the studio. I got a new camera in place. I don't have to have all kinds of crazy intense lights on me, but it lights up the desk and everything looks fine. I have been posting a bunch of videos, all of the sort of stuff that we've been talking about here. I have been editing into proper videos, I guess, as proper as I get, and putting them on our video channel, and it's been a lot of fun. We've got Jim joining us. Jim says, "Thank you for the bumpers." Hey, I hope they're not too crazy. Okay. For those of you that don't know, Jim Luan is looking for bumpers. People saying, "Hi, this is so-and-so," and I love listening to fake explosion, fake bands, real music. And so if you have the opportunity to do one of those for Jim, he would love it. Now, that's all I did. I didn't actually say, and you can check out my work at this place and all of that, but maybe you could do that too. I forgot that part. Maybe I'll have to record that and send that to him. I don't know. What's really important, though, is lots of people giving testimonials that Fake Explosion, the YouTube channel, is fantastic. And if you haven't watched, or if you haven't sat down and played it and listened to the music that he does for his different films, you're missing out because I love it. I think it's super cool, super fun. Okay, so yeah, let's get on with the crack-a-lackin'. Today's page is now I did a mixed media page. I put together a surface with tissue paper that I received from Didi Willingham. She sent me a little envelope full of different surfaces. She said, "Hey, here's some more things for you to work on, surfaces for you to play with." And so one of the things was tissue papers with various painted patterns and things on them. And so I incorporated one of those into today's page. The initial surface looked like this. And so I scanned it, and I'm glad I did, because now I can actually take the same surface that I've already done an image on, and I can do a digital drawing on top of that. So it's just a really fun modulated surface. The challenge, of course, doing a digital drawing on top of this kind of a surface is that you lose the divots and the rays, the peaks and valleys that are all over the surface of the paper because of how the tissue paper doesn't adhere to it completely flat and smooth. So aside from that, it's yet another fantastic, fun, complex pile of chaos in order to put an existing image on. And of course, the finished one was horses. The horses were running wild in the Colosseum. This is a suggestion that came in from Joshua Kemble, and which was horses in a Colosseum full of people. Horses in a Colosseum full of people. So, what can be done with that? I just wanted to tell an ancient story that nobody remembers about, the day there were way too many horses brought in and they went nuts. So that's just a fun page, but it takes this surface that I talked about, and there you go, there's the visual of it, and it is just used as the backdrop for the page that's executed on top of it. And that's the fun thing about however it is that we work, however it is that we tell stories, is that there's no set in stone rules. You have to use this kind of paper. You have to do it this kind of way. There just isn't. And so because of that, it lets us have free-form creativity. Now, when you're working for a client, when you're working on a project for somebody else, and or you're working in a structured framework, where you're producing material applicable to how a publisher puts out their material. So if you are submitting a work to a publisher that really only does a certain kind of traditionally drawn and inked and colored illustrations, the mixed media stuff probably isn't going to work for them. that's not to say that if you send it and they go, whoa, we never done this, it might not happen either. But it's just sort of know where your work is going and act accordingly. And that way you get the most result for what it is that you're producing. So anyhow, so the horses were running wild in the Colosseum. And there's your typical character with his arms up in the air. And, well, what do I do? Just some fun. Just some fun. Okay, so in addition to that, for those that are in the region, I want to announce tonight is the London Comic Jam. And so we've got, fun time together. If you, wherever you live, if you can find a jam, a local comic jam near you, depending on how it operates itself, how this one operates is somebody starts the first panel and draws the first panel of a page. And then puts the text on it right then and there, and flips it over, signs the name on the back, slides that page into the table. And the next person comes along, grabs that page, and does the next panel, and has to continue and add to the contextual narrative that was started in that first panel. And so on until the page is done. Seldom have we ever carried over from page to page doing these jams, because it really is exploring an idea, exploring an avenue of creativity. And it's a healthy and important thing that for those that have never really done pages before, that in the course of panel to panel to panel to panel on this page, that they understand the resolution of at least specifically that page, that idea, that point in time. And so what it helps for people that are developing their storytelling skills to do is to understand the context of what it is, how to, take this character that's probably represented by somebody else before them and carry them through this journey, with exposition of what the situation at hand is. And if you're the one at the end, if you can resolve that, if you can bring that to some kind of conclusion, that's great. And it's great because it helps you understand that complete journey from that conception of the world and the character in the first panel right to the conclusion at the one of the bottom panels of how this action plays out. And when people can start to figure out how to do that, then they can, in a larger narrative over numerous pages, or at least more than one, they can figure out how to connect larger ideas to what they're producing. They can connect, and whether it's a full, whatever the scope of the story is what I'm trying to say. So once you can figure out that first panel, here's an action or an idea, and here's the conclusion of a set action or set idea. The next page might be a secondary action that corresponds or doesn't to the first, but it carries that character along. And the summation of that can be the summation of both of those page ideas in a larger sense. Well, that's why this keeps happening. Or they can do a third page and now we've got the journey of a character through event. And, and if there's little subtle things that are put in there to raise up the story, like, I'm on my way to the Candy Castle. And the first thing, well, they don't get to the Candy Castle. The second thing, well, they don't get to the Candy Castle yet. And so you keep on going page to page, idea to idea, for however long it carries over to the conclusion. Maybe they get to the Candy Castle, realize it's dull, and turn around and want to go back to the place they came from. And then you've got a number of additional stories that, take them back to the Candy Castle, or to the original starting point, or the Candy Castle won't let them go because they're stuck to the floor, or, you realize that over the course of the day, everything's hot, and so the entire path along the way has become a sticky mess. Whatever silliness it is, whatever seriousness it is, very serious business getting stuck to a castle made up of candy. Whatever it is along that journey allows you to exposit more ideas along the way and to build a larger and longer narrative. So it's no different than stringing together side scenes and side characters and all these other elements. But the Comic Jam, I think, has been pretty encouraging to help a lot of people over the last so many years that we've been doing it to develop their storytelling ability. We've been doing it since 2015, once a month, and it's a good time of fun. Not every jam works this way, where it's a sort of an exquisite corpse type idea of panel to panel to panel to panel. But some people they all jam on a page together, or somebody pencils it, somebody inks it, somebody letters it, whatever. Somebody writes what the person's going to letter. Comic jams are generally not a place for writers. Comic jams are generally a place for artists or for writer-artists. And it's only because writers can espouse whatever idea they feel like in a moment. It's a different track to have to put it on paper. Generally, the person expositing the narrative, the contextual narrative in the first panel, they've written the worldview, the world, perspective, or established what the identifiable issue or character is. So it encourages encourages artists to develop their writing skills. So if there's a jam near you, find out it through public library systems or things like that. If there might be one through there, or in a local newsletter that goes around. In London, it's called The Spectrum here in town. And it's all these extra programs that are offered throughout the city. And you can find out about things happening there. Whatever the source is, newspaper, radio, somebody's got to know about a jam. Okay, so here is the base image for the piece that I started and finished on Sunday. And I started and finished the whole thing on Sunday. So, and then there's the finished result. So, fun. Thank you for Joshua K. for the suggestion of the idea. With that, just give me 1 second. We'll switch some stuff up. So this is, I did 3 pages on Sunday. 1 page is a Patreon exclusive that's up on our Patreon channel, and called History Lies. You have to read the page. But the next one is the horses running wild in the Coliseum. And the third one is this one here. And, so the idea here is about a crab that people having to fight a crab, which is a different suggestion, but it's one that we got and it works for us. So the idea of people having to fight a crab is one where I've been working it. I started drawing it last night. I did a time lapse and I put it up on the YouTube channel here. And I drew this panel in. I scribbled something together, but I really defined and rounded this out and did it in these paint markers and chalk paint markers together. And it didn't go any farther than that. But this is the difference. Paint markers and chalk paint markers that I've been using. But the notion of trying yet another medium to tell a story is a fun one to me. And so this is what we'd started. Excuse me. It's almost gone. The cough is almost gone. I don't feel like I have a cold or anything anymore. It's just this. You beat up your throat so much that you find yourself coughing afterwards. So these are the talks that we've had so far. One is about the different surfaces that you can work on. Another is about the mark making tools that you can utilize in order to tell different images. The third one is how to break down a page using panels or shapes, right? Or static images throughout a space. We can, the difference between using multiple panels as opposed to using one larger image, or one larger image that has a whole bunch of multifacets to it that carries your eye across. Point of interest was talking about how a specific point or a specific place along a page, a panel, and throughout an entire story sort of gives us the key things we need to be really looking for and paying attention. And when I say we, I mean as an audience. As a creator, we want to draw the reader to specific points. And so that's what we talked about there. Okay. What I wanted to talk with you about today is storytelling and having confidence in your storytelling. Now, in this description for this live video, I said, fake it till you make it. And what I mean by that is there's so much pressure that people put on themselves about, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough knowledge or facility to be able to tell the stories, with the sophistication that I think they should be. I can't draw. All of the different things that we put up, these barriers that we put up along the way, are never going to let us tell a story. And they're never going to let us, as creators or as people that are trying to express an additional means of communication between ourselves and the next person, especially if you don't have a voice, if you don't feel you can tell a story verbatim or verbally, maybe doing it through music or doing it through writing and illustrating, or writing or illustrating, or put it together as a play, perform it as some sort of avant-garde, modern art performance piece. I don't know. But everybody has stories in them. And it is a part of us to, even if it's just regaling somebody with, how'd your day go? It went fine. Sally, who sits next to me, chronically burps. You go through telling that story. Everybody has voices. Everybody has ideas that they want to communicate. And so one of the greater challenges is putting it down on a blank piece of paper, or writing it as a song or a poem or whatever else, all the examples. Specifically today in this arena, we're talking about writing and illustrating those stories. And so one of the things about confidence that I like to advocate, excuse me. So one of the things I really want to advocate when it comes to confidence, is I'm not talking about this self-assurity and this, this ego, or this, some people have this notion that in order to be able to do things, you have to be, well, of course, I'm so-and-so, and I do these things because I'm great. Not always the case. In fact, more than likely, it's not. Having confidence in yourself and the things that you want to express is a haphazard process. You are going to do it poorly along the way. You are going to do ineffective storytelling along the way. You're going to execute things in ways that, aren't the ideal thing that you think they should be. And then it becomes a case of, well, what level of forgiveness can you allow yourself in order to pursue that ambition, or in order to pursue that need that you have to, perhaps, to express yourself this way. So there's got to be some forgiveness. There's got to be some allowance for you to say, I'm just going to do what I do. And so, I mean, there's a couple different, so there's the barriers that you set up along the way, right? Not good enough, can't draw, and often can't draw, I always suggest, is can't draw compared to blank, because you're always thinking about somebody else or something else when you're talking about, well, I can't draw. Yes, you can. You just can't draw like Michelangelo. You can't draw like Bert Kriegsman. You can't draw like Hal Foster. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Because you can draw as you can draw, and if you apply yourself to that, you can draw better as you go. But it takes time to develop those things. You can say that I don't have a story. What else did I list off earlier? I listed a few things for you. Well, let's just say this: it's not sophisticated, right? Because some people think it has to be. Well, I want to write the next great graphic novel. Cool. Have you done a graphic novel first before? No. Well, have you ever written or illustrated anything before? No. Well, then maybe don't set yourself up for failure, because you're not going to do the great graphic novel out the gate. It's very rare and very seldom. And if you are going to produce a great graphic novel right out the gate, it's because you're going to have other people nearby you, whether they're there for editorial reasons, whether they're there for shoring up your confidence, whether it's there because of spelling, or, well, that sort of fits under editorial, or if they're there for assisting you. Like, I don't know how to do large black areas. Oh, I'll just fill those after you. I can't. I got all the picture stuff done, but I can't do the lettering. Let me help you walk through that. But it takes time. It takes time to develop up all of those skills. So all of these different barriers that we set up for ourselves, right? Just general insecurity, whatever it is, resources. There's so many barriers that are going to get in the way that the last thing in the world that you need is you yourself setting up barriers. So having the confidence to do some storytelling, really, in my opinion, that you just need to dive in. Okay? Let's put it this way. You just need to start. Now, the earliest books that I did were terrible. In comparison to how I feel I work now, when I look at those earliest books, I can see what I wanted to do, but I can see my lack of knowledge in how to do those in early days. Nothing wrong with that. Because the reason that I am doing things in a way that I feel comfortable with today is because I learned along the way how to make those mistakes by doing them. So make mistakes, right? Or you're going to make mistakes. But if you don't try, let me get this out of there. Let's move this up. If you don't try, it'll never happen. Okay? So better to have something in hand than something not in hand. So there's a number of different ways you can go about getting started. Okay? One is that the first way to just get started is to draw the things you like. Now, I'm going to put draw quotations. And the reason for that is you don't just have to draw. If you like to paint, paint. If you like to build things out of clay, then build things out of clay. And, and if you're looking to do this in a storytelling way, you can make three-dimensional objects. Take photos of them, like you're shooting scenes with a camera, and take those photos and map those photos together in a story, in a sequence of images, and you've got a story started. Put text on top of them, whatever. And there's the transition to animation, to film, is where you take these three-dimensional objects and now you're shooting footage of them and you're overdubbing, "Hey Bill, how are you? Oh, I'm pretty good, Larry." So when I say draw the things you like, You can, you can do collage, right? You can do sculpting, pictures of those, or you can do it as film, right? You can do it as animatics or animation. We can get into the difference of the two at some point in the future. So there's all these different processes along the way that you can still tell stories without specifically having to draw. Dana says, "Hi, Christopher. Hi, how you doing, Dana? Welcome aboard." So there's these different perspectives that you can have on things. You can look at it in a negative way. You can look at all the barriers that you can set up for yourself to talk yourself out of it. Okay. Or you can just figure out how to start. You just figure out the forgiveness of yourself that you're going to make mistakes. Figuring out that if I don't get started doing something, I'm not going to do anything. And then just find your approach, right? And so when you figure out your approach to how it is that you're going to tell your story, and then we're talking again in two-dimensional means for a traditional story, as though you open in a book or whatever, but you can still see all these other opportunities that can spill out into. Whether it's 3D, whether it's 2D, whether it's like when I say 3D, again, the sculpture part, take photos of it, act those scenes out. You can have friends. You can write your script and have your friends act out your script and take pictures of those and then map those into a storybook. There's no rules to say what is and what is not legitimate. It's only in the mind's eye of the person. Now, if you're going to do a photo collage book where you're taking all kinds of pictures of your friends doing things and then you're putting them in a sequence of events, acting out the thing, it's kind of like a photo book or the telebooks or all kinds of different names that they've had over the years. It's still a sequential book. Is it a comic book per se? Is it a traditional, illustrated book? No. And it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I showed an example in a previous talk that we had about where I brought out Rupert, and I showed you all the different ways that Rupert tells story in. And in doing so, I'm trying to illustrate the different combinations you can have of here's an image and here's some prose. Or here's just the specific key points of information that the text at the bottom has, the verse at the bottom has. Here's the storytelling specifically through just the image. All these different, approaches to telling the story are beneficial to you because what it gives you is the opportunity to find your story, to find your voice. If you're drawing an entire book of stick figure characters, and previously I've shown an example I have of a book where the entire book is illustrated with text and little panels with text and dots, and the dots represent people. Perfect, right? Perfect, because the story is still being told. It's predominantly textual, and I'll have a number of different dots in each panel, but it's still a story. It's still a sequence of these boxes with the text inside of them and the little dot people. You can see the joke of it on the cover is that if you take a magnifying glass and you hold it up really close to the surface, you'll actually see it's, professional actors performing this. It's dots. They're dots. It's one of those fantastic things that the majority of people I know that have owned this book at some point have actually went, it's just dots, man. Those are just dots. And they look, which is a fantastic joke for the creator. Because they know people are doing that. But the point is that you can tell entire stories with stick figures or dots. And maybe you try to develop drawing, or maybe you take your stick figure book and use stickers or use applique of some kind, right? And, we'll put down stickers for that, right? It sort of fits into the collage part of things. And there's nothing wrong with these approaches at all. You're finding your approach. You're finding your means to tell the stories you want to tell. Say it's coming from the other side where you don't have story, right? Well, the easiest way for that is to find a story and adapt it. Now, adapt it means pick out the pieces of text that you're going to incorporate, and adapt it means pick out what images you're going to represent for the telling of the whole of this story for whatever length it's going to be. And just find a story and adapt it. Pick out the parts. Pick out the points. We talked about key points of interest. Pick out the points. To convey the story. And through your approach. And that's the gist of it. That's the enchilada. Believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself, and that you'll improve, that you'll grow. It doesn't have to be perfect today. Today is you trying to get something done. Today is you trying to tell a story that you haven't been able to tell before. Today is you taking a crack at something that you're learning about and investing in the first time. That's the gist of it. That is the whole thing in a nutshell. The rest of the stuff, I'll try to tell you whatever it is that I know in this noggin about storytelling. And I'm sure there's lots of other resources that you can access to learn about storytelling. But this is the gist of it. Allow yourself to do it. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to know that you'll improve. Believe in yourself. Figure out how you're going to approach it. Just give it a shot. Right? The rest of it comes together and improves over time. All right? That's today's talk. I hope that's of help to people. But there you go. For the rest of the stream, I'm going to work on this new page. The suggestion came in from somebody. I have it written down here. I don't know where I placed it. But the suggestion for today is having to fight a giant crab. Now, if you're the one that gave me the suggestion and I don't have the note to credit you right now, please put it in the comments. But if not in the chat, in the comments afterwards, I'll take the jacket off. I'm overheating here. Anyways. So this is the piece, this is the panel that I did last night in a time-lapse drawing. This is the one that I just scribbled for 5 minutes before the stream started. Now in my head, as soon as I start drawing that first image on the page, my brain starts structuring a story together. Now I know the idea. That's the fun thing about suggested ideas or prompts or presented notions from other people. Why don't you do a story about, being stuck in the elevator with yourself? Whatever it is. And okay, I have a starting point. I have a structure point. I have a point of interest. Like the key point of it is to try to convey this initial short idea. And so the rest of it is up to me. And I find the easiest way to get going is just start a panel. Is just start drawing something. If somebody says, well, there's a crab in it, well, let's draw a crab. As basic as that sounds, it works. In my approach to this, I started drawing the people that were going to fight the crab first. And I have no idea about what is going on in this. I drew a grandma directing 3 young hoodlums in raincoats and masks. All right, boys, get in there and fight that crab. And even that dialogue came across as I'm drawing the picture. So There's no preconceived ideas here. I'm just started withdrawing. So then the second page, in the second panel, I have to do is to go back and fit it. I just found a point that I started drawing on the page, and then now I started to put some shape to the page, and this is the panel breakdown stuff that we talked about in a previous stream. So then I went back and realized, well, I got to introduce the other story element about having to fight a crab, people having to fight a crab. So there's your crab. And so in laying this out really loosely with the pencil, and I used the old trusty Mastercraft pencil. Silliest pencil on earth. Well, maybe not the silliest. I do have this pencil right here. But this one's only for big jobs. Yeah, that joke never gets old. All right, so I've got, the crab on the beach here, and I thought about, well, should I draw these people in relationship to the crab? And I never did that. I never followed through on that. And the reasoning about never following through on that is largely that sometimes those are the solutions you want to come up with next. If we draw the crab and we leave some room here that at the very bottom of this panel we can have fighting a crab, or now get in there, boys, and fight that crab. And, the word balloons trace back to grandma character. By not putting these two groups in relationship to each other, the crab versus the characters facing up to go and fight the crab, it allows us to play with the idea of the scale, in a way that the audience may be unprepared for. You get in there, boys, and fight that crab. And so we have, you got it, Grandma. No problem, Mima, or whatever they want to call her. Now, the next panel that we can do can either be the crab going, watch out for them pincers, boys. But what we can do with the summation of our story is present the fact that scale doesn't work out for the crab. It didn't say in the suggestion for the page, it didn't say giant crab. It just said crab. People fighting a crab. I'm going to flip one more light on here because there's a cast shadow. I'm sorry for that. Let's see if this improves that. Ideally it does, but and if not, we'll turn another light around. Okay, so is that better? It's much better, I think. So I've left that open because it lets me play with as I move along. Jim says, great drawing. Thanks, Jim. That's very nice of you. So here's the tools that we're using. I've got acrylic markers. I've got, in different brands. Okay. And I've got acrylic chalk markers as well. So I've also got some Poscas standing by here, like so. And in addition to that, there are some smaller paint pens that I can utilize in the drawing, but I just haven't actually pulled those out as yet. So I'm cheating and looking to see if I have a brown. Found a gold. Ooh, we can do some gold accents on the crab. Anyhow, we'll leave that. There's the smaller pen that I was talking about. So I've just started. So we've got our guys. Let's put our crab in. Now, the pencils that I stuck down here are so loose. And so, immediately, as soon as I start putting colors down, I'm losing them. I'm going right over top of them, and those pencils disappear. So you got to sort of kind of try to keep to mind, what you've got happening in your composition. So this is one of the chalk acrylic markers. It's really translucent until it goes over another paint. But that's okay, because we're just using this as kind of an undercoat. See, once you go over layers, it starts to appear miraculously thicker. But we're not overly concerned about that. So I gotta let that dry for a minute. So I'm gonna leave it open. If anybody wants me to do the another close-up shot at Grandma, or do you want to see the snappy crab? What do people want for that next panel? Because it's gonna be one or the other. So it's a choice that's just a choice of order. So this is the it's like a yellow ochre that I'm putting back down again, and building up that composition. And I'm not overly concerned about the border edge because I can trim that out after I scan it and put it down in the Photoshop, which is the program that I use. Other people use Illustrator, other people use, well, lots of different things that I can never remember the names of. It's a big problem for me to, hey, you should try this. And if I don't have a note taped to my forehead about what the thing it is that they said I should try, I don't remember it. So that tends to keep me from foraying out into new technologies, that's for sure. So these little marks that I'm making, I'm blurring them out with the tip of my finger, you know, whatever blending technique and tool that you have nearby. This one I can always find it because it's right here attached to my hand. So not attached to your hand because it's part of your hand. Hello. I know. All right, so I got this little orange shake paint marker here, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to just throw a bunch of marks and shapes throughout the whole composition. Little points here and there and everywhere, just to add some elements to it. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be exact. We're just cutting some shapes. If anybody that's in the chat wants to tell anyone else about what it is you're working on right now, feel free to do so. Don't come in and just say, hi, I'm so great, and here's why. Engage. Talk to people. Well, I have a new treatise on why I hate soup. Oh, what's that? It knows why. So this is a different orange of a deeper value to it. So throwing that in there just sort of plays around with the crayons a little bit. So now this is far more clear than my previous camera was, and it focuses much better so that I can give you a lot of these little details and bits of business in the drawings. So I'm pretty happy with that. The predominant value of this page as I'm drawing it is the tan color underneath. But then that yellow is such a strong value that it really peaks up and peaks through. So okay, so we're just going to come in here and cut some more marks and shapes in this guy. Little bits, little enhancements throughout, just to give a little more body. Contrast in here. So I sketched down the crab with pencil while watching a TV show a few minutes ago. I was just scribbling and scribbled out the crab, but that image that I looked at for a second and draw this guy, I looked at it for a few minutes. I'm not saying that I just this and I turned out I need it. I looked at the drawing of, or the photo of this crab, and I drew it down, and that's it. The rest of it, the coloring and playing with the shapes and the forms, I like to do without that resource being stuck right to me. And the reason I like to do it that way is so that I'm not encumbered by having to depict specifically the image as presented. That's just how I like to work. Everybody likes to work differently. And everybody's equally valid to do so. So I'm just going to put some more. The reason I'm using this little really light little green in here is because I have this fleshy salmon color within the crab. By throwing this little touches of the light green throughout, just activating these two complementary colors from each other. You know, giving just some fun and interesting ways for our eye to move around and recognize the complementary nature of those colors, right? So, and then I'm going to do some accent points here with the brown, you know, rather than jumping right into a black. I'll be jumping into that black in just a few seconds, but in the meantime, so I don't see any comments about what you would prefer, the crab or the grandma first, so I'm just going to jump ahead with that anyways. Moment from now. Okay, let's pull in a black. What happened? I do. Okay, we got one. We got one. Oh, I haven't used them yet. I'm not surprised by that. A lot of people run right into the black first when they're doing a painting or a drawing. They'll immediately start pulling out. Putting black into their work because, there we go. So, they just assume, you know, from an outline sort of a stance in drawing. I don't. I tend to come at it after I've got most of everything worked out. Because we don't see outlines to everything. We see emphasis points, we see shadows, we see things like that. So that's why I don't draw. I mean, unless I'm doing an entire drawing that is one, you know, blank value or something like that. Or I tend to come in and build it up the opposite way around. It's just the approach I take. I mean, it's not the same for everybody, and it's not more legitimate than how the next person does it. But I find that for me, it helps me, you know, separate out the drawing and the different parts of it, and to just use the black to accent all the different shapes that I'm going to put in. So. There we go. Now you're thinking, you're like, hey, Christopher, nice crab. Oops. Okay, so there is some of the information that I wanted to get in there. So what I'm putting down now is basically like the shadow under the crag. Hopefully it'll give our crab a little bit more dimension and space. Just because you can see there's an underneath to him. You know, that's the theory. Right. Now I can take, like you see how in here, I haven't really done it, but in other compositions you'll notice that I'll take a white outline. And I mean, I can example today's earlier page with the horses running loose, that there's white outlines around these characters to differentiate one plane from the next, or to differentiate one horse from the one beside it. So when I come at an image, oftentimes I'll use that approach to it. Today, I think I haven't done any of that in the first panel. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I find it necessary to do it in this panel. But putting down this base orange value of whatever the environment is back here, a beach that our crab is motioning towards us with, and then we'll bring in some yellow stuff to pull that beach surface back up again. So it doesn't just feel like the panel that I've drawn is just sort of receding off into the horizon. It doesn't have any weight to it, here as a foreground image. So I'll mess with it a little bit and then build it up. So this is first two panels coming together now. Here's our crab. Here's our boys that are being told by Grandma, boy, you get out there and bring honor to our family and fight that there crab. It's got it coming and it knows it. And of course, you can have fun with that too. Why are they fighting that crab? Well, because you raised the local taxes. Once you vote somebody in office, all the power goes to their head. Go beat up that crab. I realize that's two crazy different ideas. But that's sort of fun of us telling stories, is that we can mix two crazy fun ideas and nobody gets to tell us we can't. So I think what I'll do for the next panel, I got a question here. Sorry about that. I hope I haven't left you hanging on that question for a while. Do you feel like time moves differently for you while you're drawing? Yes and no. I think that time is not, as much as we subscribe to time being a linear concept, that time is shared unilaterally amongst all of us. And so while we have made an agreement to use hours, minutes, and seconds on a clock to tell how time moves, perceptually, no matter what it is that we're doing, it feels like time is either speeding by, or we're so enthralled in a moment that we don't recognize that time is speeding by, or time can feel like to us individually like it slows down. I've always found this really interesting. This is why I'm blathering on about it. But when I'm drawing, I tend to go into a no state. I tend to, I find it really easy for me to just jump into the flow. And so the flow was an expression used creatively to say that the flow of time and the super flow of inspiration and stuff like that. So because I tend to just drop right into the bucket of the super flow, I find that not to be challenging to do so. It's just, I disconnect. It's weird. It's a really easy way to disassociate in my head, maybe, but what it just allows me to do is get right into creating and not overly concerning myself about anything larger and more than that. So I don't even think about time. I just don't. I just oftentimes that when I'm working and I'll come up for air in a moment, I'll realize that, oh my gosh, that much time has gone by. But when you allow yourself to stop thinking about external elements and to just immediately get into your work head, your workspace, I think time comes back to you at the end of it. So maybe if you're like me, an idea is to leave an alarm clock of some kind to go off, while you're working, because you're going to forget to keep track of time. I'm like a child that way. That's how children behave. Big, giant baby. So I'm just trying a whole bunch of the little bits of business that occupy a crab space. Pretty similar to the predator, really. Anyways. Okay, so I want to get the threat of the pincers in the foreground. So giving a little dimensionality to the pincer. And how about you? How about anybody that's in the chat, Jim, or anybody else? Do you feel that time moves differently while you're drawing or doing whatever it is that you enjoy doing the most? I'm curious to find out about other people now. Because I don't think I'm an exception to a rule. I think that there's a lot of people that get lost in the moment like I do, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm just going to get the snappity snap business going on here. I think I had, let's see. Yeah, one hand's got the claw and the other hand doesn't have the claw, so I would think that it would work better out the claw, so. Okay, so we got our next picture laid in, and I can't remember how. I think I just used a flesh tone color, like a salmon color, and just started, yeah, that's it. And I just started cutting shapes out of it. I'm going over the sides of the image. I don't care. Again, we'll clean up those gutters post. I'm not very excited. Just drawing away here, but crabs are ugly. This is not an appealing critter. I think that one of the challenges in literature, the fear of the unknown, that story type that a great deal of people like to use, is because they're looking at things like encephalopods or invertebrates that populate the ocean, because they're so foreign to us. Octopuses are so weird, and they're very smart, but they're so weird to us. So let's make Cthulhian ancient god characters for our literature, or crab people. Oh, clearly giant crabs. We have to fight them on the beach. Our swords versus their snappers. Snappers, is that? I don't know what they're called. Pardon me. Pardon my yawning. Okay, so we get this defined, chopped up a little bit here as a panel. Get some of this information on here, and I'll let you know where we're going to go with the whole of the page. Let's at least get something together for you. I'm breaking up, unless it's a larger tutorial, unless it's something that's more involved, I'm breaking up the tutorials, shortening those down to talking about the specific concept or idea for the day, and then spending the other half of the stream working on a panel. So I hope that that's my immediate plan for an approach, and I hope that people like that, because this way people aren't bored, because all I'm doing is yakking the whole time. Or people aren't bored because all I'm doing is doodling the whole time. I think we're hard pressed for people to come here that don't want to see some doodling. Draw, monkey boy. There we go. So our crab is starting to take shape. It looks like the other guy. Let's see. Yeah, they could be brothers. the same crab. That's the idea I'm trying to get across. Okay, so we got some structure to that guy. What else have we got in here? We got a bit of this green. We got darker orange. Okay. Using this light green really subversively by cutting out the shapes and how those body parts correspond to each other. So these two lower mandibles, they move out. I did this sort of halo and then with the light green. So, all right. Well, so that's the gist of today, I think, folks. I beg your forgiveness for yawning there. I slept properly last night, so. Okay, so there's our crowd starting to come together. Yeah, I think we got something happening here. It's going to be a fun page to do. Snappity snap snap business. I left the space above the crab specifically so I could put snappity snap snap. You know, next up I'll draw grandma, and then I'm going to draw all of our guys rushing the crab. You know, just something fun. You know, just something fun. But yeah, that's what I'll continue on doing today. I know this is a short stream, but I'm trying to get across doing 5, Monday through Friday, and trying to do a 2 o'clock thing. I just don't have any guarantee of how long it's going to be. I've not just got the stuff that I'm doing here for the one-page stuff and posting a page a day. Last year we did 358, but I'm on 359, I think it is. But I'm also working on other things. So, and as it stands, we're already into page 8, but I've actually done about 13 pages so far this year. Just making up for lost time, maybe, from, the end of the year last year coming to a close early because I got so sick around Christmas time. So, yeah, but this has been a lot of fun. I'll hold it up there in the camera. This needs to focus for a second. It's a good camera. And then here's the grandma. All right, boys, get in here and fight that crab. And then the next panel, of course, is the crab going snappity snap snap. And I'll say that up above the crab's head. And then we'll have a picture of our young man rushing against the crab. And then I'll decide whether the crab is going to be really tiny and clearly outgunned and outnumbered, or massive, absolutely massive. These guys are in serious trouble. Either way is fun for me, but it's just a case of choices. Right? Okay, well, I've got to get a couple of things done, and so I apologize for that. I'm going to be heading out, but I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST, and I've got all kinds of new fun stuff. If you got a one-page story suggestion, feel free to lay it on me. I love them. I had a good time doing it, so as we did last year. We're really cracking at it this year. If you've got prompt words, you just want to shout a word at me, feel free to put that in the comments. Comments, I love comments. I love comments. I like to say thank you to people when they leave them. And I write all these things down in the book of tricks. Right there, right over here on the shelf beside me. The legendary book of tricks. Anyways, I got some fun videos and commercials that are coming up. Once again, I'm just going to do one more call to action before I sign off, and that is Jim Lewin is looking for people to record bumpers. I'm so-and-so, and I love listening to Fake music, real bands. And give Fake Explosion, the channel on YouTube here, a listen. You hear all the music that Jim does for his different animations, and they're great. They really are. Yeah, that's about it for me. I'm going to sign off. Thanks very much for everybody for coming out. I'll be back at 2 p.m. EST tomorrow, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.